The sky grows dark, and the crowd is bigger than the turnout at the Super Bowl. The Potters are scribbling. After all, they have a juicy story for tomorrow's headlines. Tomorrow the newspaper will have its headline, and our boy will have passed his deadline. His execution is about to be carried out. Arthur is brought in chains that suppress his powers. Everyone calls him the Prince with Demonic Eyes, a name way too cool for him. And what did he ever do wrong? But only silence greets him. Well, silence and eye rolls. He starts asking if it's because he used his power for selfish reasons, or maybe he didn't try to understand their suffering. Even the execution has enough of his bullfish. He tells Arthur to stay down, and with the yank of his chain he actually goes down like a sack of potatoes. He looks at everyone in despair, wondering if it's because he never did anything at all. Another guy calls him Big Brother, looking at him nonchalantly, the way my siblings look at me when I'm getting my ass whooped by my mom. Arthur looks at Moorbread, who just tells Arthur that he never cared about anyone. He hopes that he'll care about his death at least. Arthur looks around and realizes he has no one, and maybe this is how it feels to be hurt and wounded. Just when our boy is having his epiphany, a guy in the stalls tells the executioner to keep it moving. He has a gooning session to attend to later. Arthur whispers, "It hurts as hell, but he is still brought to the gallows, chained up with Moorbread taking the throne." He always thought that everyone would obey him if he just acted high and mighty, but look where that landed him. If only he had a chance to start over, he would do things differently. The executioner asks him if he has any last words, and he just starts crying. Such an uncool way to bite the dust. The blade drops. Everyone starts cheering, and the furious scribbling of paper is the last thing he hears as he wonders how much is going to hurt. He wakes up with a jolt, screaming like a little girl, and surprisingly, instead of the gallows, he is in his nice, cushy bed. He looks around and realizes that he is alive. He bursts out in excitement that he is alive, looking at the jewelry he confiscated during the revolution. He looks at the gems and is startled by how shiny they are, and the castle isn't burnt to the ground. He starts hyperventilating, asking how. He thought he had lost everything in that nightmare. Just then, a whole army of maids arrives, telling him good morning, Prince Arthur. Our boy must have fumbled somewhere along the line for his life to go from scene to rags and gallows. Arthur smiles, asking if it's true. The maid tells him that breakfast is served. He hasn't had a proper meal in ages. He accidentally says that part aloud, and the maid wonders if he hit his head or something. Ever since the revolutionaries captured him, he has been having stale bread and watery soup. Honestly, it's still better than what I am having after graduating from my arts degree. He just coughs. He has been through a nightmare, and looks at his grand portrait. He starts having a high head again, as if he were to be executed. He is destined for a glorious future. The maids look at him, wondering why he is extra narcissistic today. After all, too much self-love isn't good. One of them even wonders if he goons to his own portrait. He angrily tells them not to pay him any mind. The maids silently know that Prince Arthur never cared about commoners. Just then, an old shivering man is brought to him. The chef has trouble with the floor delivery being late, so there is no bread for breakfast. All of the maids hold their breath. That sentence might as well be a death sentence for the old man. But the new Arthur doesn't care. He just excitedly tells the old man that if there is no bread, they should serve cake instead. Looking at the army of maids has made our boy hungry for cake, and he just goes away after using the problem-solving skill of a 10-year-old. This is a perfect life. The maids whisper, asking if they heard what he said. If there is no bread, just serve cake. Royalty really is something else. Hearing their whispering is enough to trigger our boy's PTSD, and he runs back to his room, asking them to bring tea later. The maids feel bad about gossiping about him in earshot. Arthur returns to his room. He is supposed to be a prince blessed by fate. It was all supposed to be a dream, but why does the memory feel so real? He can just taste that watery soup in his mouth. Well, that and his cellmate's batter after he dropped the soap. He looks at his hands trembling, and the PTSD triggers as well. He remembers the day he was caught, his castle burned to the ground. He was grabbed and taken away in a rebellion, and he idiotically wondered if it was money. If it's money, then he will shower them with gold. Moorbread just told him that his fortune ran dry a long time ago. He's been standing on bankruptcy all this time, because the true power of a noble is his man-force, and he has no followers anymore. He was then taken to a cell, beaten black and blue. He was down on his knees while a big thick black thing was hovering over him, probably a baton, or so I'd like to think. He was then beaten every day from then on, with no way to use his powers. He was just a helpless child, locked away by the very people he was destined to rule. He also remembers a kind girl calling him King Arthur. The woman always came, and she would take his broken arm, and with a gentle smile she would ask if he was in pain. Every bit of that nightmare is far too true to be fake. Finally, a MC who is actually traumatized by his death. Instead of just getting reborn and saying, "Ah shit, here we go again." Just then, someone approaches him, a maid who is asking if he is in pain. But something about those eyes and those marshmallows makes her look absolutely devious. It's the woman from her nightmare standing before her. But who really is she? Arthur is breathless, looking at the maid, and starts to go off the rails. He swats her hand away, telling her not to come any closer. He's out of breath and out of his senses as the saucer falls, spilling hot tea on the maid. "That's not how you drench a maid in fluids, idiot." He starts yelling. It's all her fault. She barged into the room without knocking. He starts going on and on about how he's in the right, but he finally comes to his senses when the tea spilled on his hand starts to burn, triggering his past life trauma. He starts going off about how anyone who hurts him is his enemy. The maid, surprisingly, is not evil. With tearful eyes, she asks Arthur if he is hurt. He looks at the maid in confusion. This is not the sadistic baddie he knew in his past life. The maid tearfully asks for forgiveness. She would never hurt him. He's her prince, and with his powers there's no way anyone could hurt him. Arthur is taken by the bear. The girl from her memories just held her arm every day, but maybe he has confused a lot of things with his PTSD. He starts rubbing his hair furiously, because all he remembers is pain. He can't even make out much of those memories. He's supposed to be at the top of the food chain, and yet he's scared of a maid. The maid then asks if he's hurt, and he tells her he's fine, and asks to see her hand. She apologizes, and looks at her blistered hand. He feels bad, asking if it hurts. He uses his ability, Giga Healing, to make that skin as smooth as butter again. He smiles, telling her it's all better, but the maid crashes out, telling him he shouldn't. His power is far too precious to be wasted on a commoner like her. She starts to lose her mind, thinking about all the creative ways she can be punished for having their prince heal her. Arthur just turns to leave, telling her that when he looks at her it just kinda hurts. Little bro just flexed a heart attack and rizzed up her, making her run away in embarrassment. Arthur is left there all alone, thinking about his healing ability and how he is forbidden from healing commoners. He remembers a fat oaf telling him that healing magic is very rare and he needs to use it responsibly, as if the responsible way is to heal only nobles, under the tutor's supervision. Kind of how I was told only to light a fire in my mom's supervision when I burned my house down. Arthur looks around, going through his books, deciding to report to his tutor later. He accidentally grabs a book, and it's dirty AF. It's definitely not a magic book, but maybe a notebook. He starts reading it, and surprisingly, it's about his past life, how he was unalived in the execution, followed by a revolution. He throws the book away. It's not every day you find a book with a list of your haters and a detailed account of the biggest L's you faced. He then grabs the book quietly, as if it owes him money. He's scared of a mere book and flips through it from a distance. It turns out his younger brother led a successful revolution, capturing and clapping him and his estate. At the age of 20, he was tortured, handed over to Didi, transferred to Epstein Island, and then executed by the guillotine. Something falls on his head, and he realizes it wasn't a dream. The time really did rewind, which means the future that is waiting for him doesn't include the future, and he won't even be losing his V card. He starts to think about all the ways he can avoid it. Just then, someone starts shouting down the hall, "How dare King Arthur use healing spells? They're gonna make her eye." Everyone looks at the tutor, scared. The tutor, who is a fatty. The tutor yells that Prince has never given out charity, and here he is healing comrades. He leans closer to the poor girl, asking if she turned him into a simp with her bomb body. She yells that she would never do that, and asks the tutor to let him go. Everyone starts whispering, wondering what they can do. This scumbag happens to be a noble. They can't do anything. He continuously slanders the maid to get the prince on his high horse by turning him into a fool and using her body. He even offers to pay her more if that's the kind of service she's providing. Just then, Arthur arrives like a knight in shining armor, asking what he is doing to his maid. The fatty tells Prince Arthur that it's nothing serious, he's just scolding a clumsy maid, and there's no need to worry. He turns to leave, but Arthur tells him to hold his horses. He feels as if he's been reborn today, so why don't they have a little chat? It looks like things are turning for Fatty, and he'll finally get the diet he deserves. With an innocent face, he asks the tutor to see their finances. The look on Fatty's face is priceless. Either he's on the verge of being broke, or he has nothing to hide. Arthur smiles. He should be happy that he's finally acting like a prince, and as his tutor he needs to give him that economics lesson. He tells Fatty to sit, and just as he said, he healed the maid since she had burn marks and a ton of blisters. Maybe he can also fix his stiff shoulders. Fatty thinks of the prince as nothing more than a spoiled brat. Arthur, on the other hand, wonders if nobles even get hurt. The most exercise they do is talk, and since they make their servants do everything, he asks if the tutor remembers the countess he brought to be healed. When he asks how it happened, she asks to be healed. Her fingers were blistered and she was born in a merchant family, and counts coins all day. That cracked him up. He then grabs Fatty's hand and similar blisters are all over his fingertips. Looks like Fatty has been busy with something other than going to McDonald's. The blisters are the same way, and does he also belong to a merchant family or something? Nobles never lift a finger, and Arthur points out that instead of counting his calories, he has been counting Arthur's money. The maids gasp in surprise, realizing that this fatty has been pocketing Arthur's money. He asks the fatty to hand over the records. After all, he is a helpless noble, so he must be thrilled to see Arthur grow up. Fatty scampers away the way I do after my dad asks for my result card. The maids start cheering for Arthur. He stood his ground and made them so proud. Arthur is not used to so much baddie attention. He just blusters his way and rushes back to work. They start simping for him, asking if he is shy, and he is your cutie. The maid in question also smiles. He is surprisingly kind. Arthur then flips through his book and accidentally spills all the pages, but he feels the air of change surrounding him. Something has changed. It still ends at the guillotine. Or will it happen? He imagines the maid, and the book shows him that the maid will oppose the execution. Arthur looks at the book in surprise. It looks like the book is live streaming his life and giving him pro trips and walkthroughs. With the book on his side and healing magic in his pocket, he vows to win the people so that he won't drown in execution flags. He'll run from the guillotine when everything is gone. Our boy decides to appoint her as his personal maid. After a moment of shock, she screams louder than my parents when I told them I am majoring in arts, and she decides her life as a regular maid is over, so she just stands there wallowing in despair, unable to even scream properly. An 11 out of 10 beauty asks what is the matter, and she turns out to be the head maid, Mariani, and with a maid like that around, I would not be able to get any work done even if my life depended on it. The maid asks Mariani what she should do, and Prince Arthur has apparently asked her to become his personal maid, which leaves Mariani taken aback, because only the most trusted maids are given that title, so she must have done something extraordinary, and by the way, she is even able to walk straight after leaving his room, so she did not take the OnlyFans route either. She nervously explains that Prince Arthur wants to earn good deeds. He wants to heal the commoners, and he wants to win them over, and since she is familiar with commoners, he wants her to stay by his side, as his personal maid, so that he can make up for everyone he has ever hurt. The maid just smiles, telling Prince Arthur that he has done wonderfully, but Arthur simply turns back to his room with heavy bags under his eyes, looking more drained than ever, and she starts losing her mind thinking she is the reason he looks like that. Mariani watches her and figures she is just overthinking everything, so to snap her out of that low self-esteem spiral, she slaps her twice. One for Prince Arthur and one for herself, saying that His Highness must have a reason for choosing her even if they do not understand it yet. The maid yells that she wants to understand why he chose her, what his plans are, and how he plans to fulfill them, but Mariani just smiles and tells her that he probably carries burdens no one else can understand, and all she needs to do is support him. After all, the prince had a commoner for a mother, so maybe the maid reminds him of her, although she completely twists the situation and basically turns that baddie into Arthur's mom. The maid remembers Arthur saying some weird stuff that was required, but nothing personally weird, and Mariani cannot believe she actually asked him if she would have to serve cake every day, as part of being a personal maid. Then comes the real problem. How is she supposed to act like his mom? And Mariani casually tells her to spoil him rotten, because that is what mommies do, adding that nobles have all kinds of twisted hobbies, so maybe this will help. She hands her a brown bag and leaves, clearly enjoying the chaos she just caused. And the maid, already spiraling, wonders if there is a pacifier inside, but instead she finds a pair of underpants spicier than flaming hot Cheetos, which turns her face bright red as she screams while Mariani laughs in the background. Later, armed with the confidence of questionable underwear, she sprints toward Arthur, ready to spoil him, but Arthur looks like he just returned from war, sitting there exhausted while staring into his notebook. Out of nowhere, the maid starts rattling a toy and spinning around him, trying her best to act cheerful, but instead of being comforted, Arthur just pushes her away and says he needs to rest. She refuses to give up and doubles down, offering him a lap pillow, and this time our boy does not push her away, because realistically, who is refusing a lap pillow with those big marshmallows hovering over them? As he rests there, he thinks about how his life went from resting under a guillotine to resting under something much softer, but even then he cannot bring himself to enjoy the moment or even look at the bright blue sky she keeps talking about. He tries to get up to make some tea and clear his head, but the maid is still acting suspiciously dedicated, so Arthur decides he has had enough nonsense for one day and heads back to his room. The lap pillow might have been too much for him, but the maid is still not done, as she puts on a night outfit so spicy it could burn tongues, and walks into his room as a last attempt to cheer him up. She is ready to go all in, but instead she finds Arthur mumbling in his sleep about a nightmare, about not knowing what to do, about how all the maids were happier before he arrived, and about how he cannot even remember the name of the maid who visits him every day. That is when it hits her. This is not about cheering him up in some weird way. He is just lost, so she gently tells him that he does not need to understand everything on his own, and if things get too hard he can just ask her, and even if neither of them knows the answer, they can figure it out together. Arthur lets out a small laugh and calls her a hopeless personal maid, but he smiles for the first time in a while and says maybe he can actually try this time, which makes her laugh as well, relieved to finally see him smile. She admits she cannot be his mom, but maybe being a big sister works better, and Arthur just sits there wondering what in the corn hub she is talking about. After that, he starts getting to know the other maids, learning that the head maid is Mariani, and everyone is confused about why a noble suddenly wants to connect with commoners. But Arthur just smiles and says they are basically his life support, which sends every maid into emotional overdrive as they swarm him and start introducing themselves all at once, overwhelming him to the point where he runs away. His personal maid catches up to him and asks if it was too much, saying it must have been overwhelming being surrounded by so many beauties, but they can take it slow. Arthur smiles and says it is getting late, but he still wants to know her name and whether she will stay as his personal maid. She smiles brightly and introduces herself as Ki, saying that from today onward she will be his personal maid. Just like that, our boy gets a fresh start in life, with a baddie by his side and someone who will call out his fumbles, and it even feels nice for him to say her name, since only relatives or nobles usually do that, and maybe that is something fiancés do too. Somewhere nearby, a beautiful woman overhears everything, and just like that, the plot thickens more than my baby batter. After I see my favorite e-girl stream, Keiki is fawning over him for actually eating his onions like a big boy, and Arthur just smiles, saying he wants to start helping people as soon as he can, though it is unclear how eating onions will help anyone, but since she chopped them for him, he eats them anyway. All the other maids find him cute as hell, and Keiki explains that they need to help the people, that this is part of noblesse oblige, the obligation of nobles to care for others, and Arthur is surprised that people actually think like that, almost choking on his onion. Keiki asks what is wrong, but just hearing that phrase is enough to trigger PTSD, because it reminds him of a certain someone, and right on cue, someone launches a paper airplane at his head like it is the Twin Towers. He checks it and finds a string of nasty threats written on it, and Kay wonders who would do that, but Arthur already knows there is only one person who could be his biggest hater. Right then, an 11 out of 10 beauty shows up, because of course she heard the words noblesse oblige, and Arthur immediately panics, yelling that this is literally her summoning phrase, because if anyone says it, she appears faster than Mahoraga. When Megumi says with this sacred treasure, Kati politely greets Lady Morgan, another noble, and Morgan calmly asks Arthur if they can have tea together, but our boy would rather die than sit down for tea with this menace. So he runs away while Kati apologizes for him. She asks if Arthur wants her to leave them alone so they can talk, since they are engaged after all, but that is exactly what he is trying to avoid. It all goes back to the day they met, when Arthur said something dumb like people should eat cake if they do not have bread, and Morgan immediately shut him down by pointing out that both come from wheat, then proceeded to hound him over unfinished paperwork and complaints from the people. He remembers constantly crashing out because he is the prince, not the HR department, but she never let up, warning him that if he did not change, a revolution was coming. And now in the present, Arthur is losing his mind thinking about how he is supposed to deal with all of that. On the verge of a meltdown, Kay asks Morgan to help him, but instead Morgan calls him foolish, and Kay is confused about what she is trying to say. Arthur sinks into despair, saying being engaged to her is a nightmare, and right on cue the nightmare herself appears behind him. Kay tries to distract her with tea and sweets, but Morgan ignores it and focuses on Arthur, calling him out for telling starving people to eat cake while others are fighting over scraps. She says she has real work to do while he plays house, and before leaving, she warns him that the revolution is coming for him, and if he does not change, he will lose his head. That is enough to send Arthur spiraling, so Kay does what any sensible maid would do and starts rattling her toy to calm him down, then looks at the books and decides she will help him somehow. Later, Morgan confronts the tutor, accusing him of spoiling Arthur and secretly stealing from the royal treasury, calling him a disgrace and promising to have him dismissed because corruption has no place in the castle. The tutor shoves a pile of complaints in her face, but then pushes back, saying they are nothing but trash meant to be burned, and if she keeps pushing, he will make sure her engagement gets broken. He mocks her belief in noblesse oblige, saying Arthur would never lift a finger for her. At that exact moment, Arthur shows up, hiding behind Kay like a true warrior, and accidentally triggers Morgan again by saying noblesse oblige out loud. The tutor is shocked because even though Arthur is clinging to his maid's skirt, he is still the prince, and Arthur immediately starts acting, claiming Morgan is trying to exile him with false accusations, spreading rumors of revolution, and accusing him of theft. One look at the tutor's belly makes it easy to believe he is stealing both money and fries from a drive-thru, and Arthur accidentally calls Morgan out in the process. Morgan's expression softens, and she quietly assumes she is the one who should leave, apologizing and even calling the revolution a joke. Just as she turns to go, Arthur grabs her skirt too, because of course he does, saying he knows the revolution is real, and before things escalate further, the tutor is about to crash out again, but Kay steps in and tells him to calm down. Arthur drops his good deeds notebook and bends down to pick it up, remembering all the complaints, the letters from the people, the failed wheat harvest, children unable to attend school, and people unable to find jobs after getting arts degrees, just like him, and realizes these are real problems under his rule. Kay has been struggling with all of this alone, and now she is on the verge of tears. Morgan is shocked that Arthur actually believes her, and he simply smiles, reaching out to her and asking for her help in figuring out how to fix things, saying he wants to follow noblesse oblige properly this time. The tutor freezes, and when no one responds, Arthur awkwardly says he will just investigate everything himself, but Morgan smiles and refuses to let him do it alone, especially after he said her summoning phrase again. Just like that, the tension breaks, and somehow they all end up on the same side. Morgan admits she is glad he is no longer running away from his responsibilities, but at the same time she cannot ignore how he always shows up at the exact moment he is needed, almost like he knows what is going to happen next, and her suspicions start growing faster than my credit card debt. They are on their way to Avalon, the place where people's complaints line up, and Arthur looks at the two baddies, while the bumpy road is enough to make those marshmallows jiggle and put him in a good mood, because at the end of the day, he is heading somewhere he can finally farm some good deeds. He arrives at the city ready to change the future and avoid his execution, and as he looks around, the place is actually beautiful. Kelly asks if he is really sure about all of this, and that brings us back a few hours earlier, when she was smiling non-stop because she had never been in a carriage for this long. Morgan told her to get some rest, but she wanted to enjoy the hillsides, and then out of nowhere, a bandit showed up and shot Arthur straight in the chest with a crossbow. Arthur did not even scream, he just healed instantly like it was nothing, and while everyone else rushed to grab the bandit and question him, Kelly and Morgan were completely stunned, but Arthur calmly pulled out the arrow and told them to keep moving like this was just a minor inconvenience. They cannot understand why he was not scared or even shocked, because sure, his healing ability is completely broken, it activates naturally, and is better than reverse curse technique, but still, a normal person would react. In reality, Arthur already knew this would happen from his book, but instead he just feeds them some nonsense about having insane reflexes. Morgan decides to head into the city first so they can explore and interact with the commoners, and once she leaves, Kay immediately switches gears, smiling as she throws a hood over his head and tells him she will guide him around. Even if things get scary, she will protect him like a big sister, and he should just act like her little brother for now, which means our boy skipped the friend zone and got sent straight to the little brother zone. As they walk around, he notices a girl playing with a toy and asks what it is, and Kay explains that it is a game where you bounce a heavy ball and try to land it on a pin. Arthur decides to try it, but immediately fumbles and smacks himself in the head, proving this is harder than it looks, then casually hands it back like nothing happened. The girl asks if it hurt, but honestly he does not care, because he is having the best day of his life walking around with Kay, trying out food from the market, and watching people just live their lives, each with their own personality, and it finally clicks for him that these are real people. Then a delicious smell hits him, coming from a cookie stand, and he asks Kay if she likes them, and she happily says yes, they are sweet and amazing. So Arthur, feeling generous, pulls out a thick wad of cash, instantly shocking everyone nearby, because why is a kid walking around with that much money like he owns the place? Later they regroup with Morgan, who notices all the souvenir bags and immediately clocks that they have been busy, but Arthur claps back, calling it observation and integration like he is running a field study. Morgan explains that this is exactly why he is here, and she takes him to the archives of the domain, where every complaint from the people is gathered, asking him if he can truly handle resolving all of them, their sorrow, their hunger, all of it. The moment he reads the first letter, Morgan's expression turns serious, because it talks about how only nobles receive healing, and Arthur realizes that blindly using healing magic on everyone would just create dependency, so magic alone is not the solution. What he really needs is to use his authority as a prince. He starts going through the major issues one by one, the growing wealth gap between nobles and commoners, the food crisis, and the monopoly over healing magic, and confidently declares that this is exactly why he came to Avalon, acting like he just made a groundbreaking discovery. Morgan is genuinely surprised that he can think this clearly, and Kay looks at him like a proud big sister, wondering when he got so smart. What they do not know is that Arthur is basically running on a cheat sheet, because he has a book that tells him the future, like the universe itself saw his struggle and handed him a full walkthrough so he would not fumble again. Even Morgan starts trusting him after seeing this, and Arthur, feeling confident, announces their next mission. They are heading to an orphanage, and today is the day he is going to win Morgan over and farm some good points, or at least that was the plan before he got bullied by a bunch of orphans and had garbage thrown at him. Still, progress is progress, because our boy went from a crying mess to at least trying to be charming, and honestly that is a glow up. Our boy was just about to ride his high horse before a bucket fell on his head and the children started chasing him around while throwing rubbish at him. A few minutes earlier than his little bullying session, they arrive at the orphanage. Wondering what happened in the morning has made them all nervous and jittery. They are met with Father Priest, who is crying his eyes out, so they bow respectfully, asking if Morgan told him about their meeting. Morgan is just hiding around a corner and observing them silently, as if judging their life choices. The father is really happy that they really came. He is overcome with joy, crying that Prince Arthur is here. He thanks them for coming by. Kay murders if Prince Arthur is really that popular, and the father starts crying even harder. He brings out a poster showing Arthur in shining armor, claiming that he is the reincarnation of a holy knight, the one blessed with healing magic, the beloved second prince of the kingdom. Morgan and Kay wonder if they are really talking about the same person. Isn't he the public enemy number one? Arthur just smiles. He can't believe that someone is thrilled just because he showed up, and this is where he'll change his fate. Before he can tell anyone what he's going to do over here, a bucket falls on his head, and the children start chasing him around, throwing paper balls at him. Kay starts crying for Arthur, and the father feels as if his soul has left his body. Later, he starts apologizing by bashing his head in and bowing, saying that the pranksters here are out of hand, and they'll get a generational ass whooping after he leaves. Even the kids feel bad for Arthur. When Arthur gets up, everyone holds their breath. They're on edge, wondering what kind of nasty punishment he will bring down on the orphanage. But Arthur just smiles, telling the kids they shouldn't hit friends or they'll get hurt. No more pranks, and he hopes they've learned their lesson. All the kids are apologetic, and the father is crying harder than ever that his beloved prince is so kind, like a saint. Morgan, on the other hand, is crashing out. She has known him since childhood, and it's clear that he is pretending to be nice. But he has won the father and Kay's total approval. He tells them to study hard and grow up to be good people. Morgan realized that that's what she used to tell him as kids. She wonders if she should butt in, but someone tells Arthur to stop pretending like he's better than them. They all look up at a kid aura farming. The kid asks Arthur what a spoiled prince like him even knows about what they go through. No matter how hard they try, some people are destined to die. Arthur looks at the boy, and then at another boy who's sitting with a book across his lap and a missing arm. Arthur walks around, wondering about his words. No matter how hard they try, they still die. Is he talking about this boy? The boy tells Arthur that's not true. Arthur asks the boy if he is in pain, and if he should be healed. All the other kids scamper around, wondering if he can really cure Betty's illness. It costs a fortune to get a healing session from Arthur, and they can't really afford it. The child also introduces himself as Betty. He got poisoned after suffering a monster attack, and they had to cut his arm off, but the poison still spread. For poor people like them, healing magic is a myth, and they just wait around to die. After all, there are no miracles for the poor. Instead of setting aside money to have a healing session, they would rather spend it on good meals for the orphanage. He asks if Arthur is donating to the orphanage, and if that's his maid over there. Arthur looks around. He brings out a couple of books, asking why the kid is studying so hard. If he has accepted that, Arthur smiles, and a bright burst of light engulfs them. He tells the kid that he knows he is doing everything to change fate, so they should keep fighting together. The father is on his knees, praying and crying like usual. Betty, on the other hand, looks at his arm regrown. He can't believe it. Arthur used healing magic on a commoner. Morgan looks like she's on the verge of a stroke, and Arthur tries to refuse that he used healing magic. He doesn't want to get in trouble, but it was too much seeing people get hurt. He just couldn't stand by and do nothing. He wonders if he's just all bark, no bite, but then he just smiles. He did a great thing. He used healing magic on someone other than nobility, and that's how they know that he's changed. She can feel it in her bones, and they'll figure it out one step at a time. They turn to leave the mortgage orphanage. Later, Arthur walks around and can't sleep. The orphanage residents will oppose the execution, as it says in the book. His execution still can't be avoided. He's trying to fight against fate. Just then a voice tells him that a prince shouldn't be sleeping outside. Morgan arrives and is aura farming against the moon. Honestly, is everyone in this series inspired by Piccolo? Arthur tells her that he used to sleep outdoors, so he's used to it. Morgan wonders how a delicate little prince can get used to sleeping outside. Arthur asks Morgan if he can really change fate. She is not sure, but it's clear that he has changed. The next morning, the headlines have flagged him a threat by his brother's faction. He starts crying that fate hasn't changed at all. Kale, on the other hand, tells him to hang in there. Gambare, Gambare, little bro. It starts raining heavily, and Kay asks Arthur to please come out of his room, because it has been 3 whole days, and if he is doing what she thinks he is doing, his pillow might be pregnant by now. But in reality, our boy is just depressed as hell. He never wants to go outside again, and at this rate he will be meeting the gallows faster than he can say 3 Mississippi. He still has to deal with his brother's faction, and he cannot understand why he is public enemy number 1, when he has not even done anything. He keeps wondering if there is any way to escape execution, and just then Kay softly asks him to hear her out, telling him that if he wants, he can talk to her. He slowly opens the door, but the moment she suggests going outside for fresh air, he immediately tries to shut himself back in, because there is no way he is risking running into his brother and speeding up his own execution. Then suddenly, something clicks in his mind. This is 5 years before the execution timeline, so what if he just talks to his brother directly, and figures out if there is a way out? With that plan forming, he asks Kay to bring him more bread, laughing like he just discovered a game-breaking exploit, because this is the most straightforward approach he has tried so far, compared to working at the orphanage and helping around like a model citizen. Just then, Kay nervously whispers that his brother is here, the same man who executed him in his last life, and the third prince, Mordred, walks in. They stand face to face, and Mordred is surprised to see Arthur outside his room, asking if it feels like prison, which instantly triggers Arthur's PTSD, making him snap back and tell him not to say things like that. Even if Mordred looks harmless now, Arthur knows this kid will become his biggest hater in 5 years, so he cannot let his guard down. Kay tries to ease the tension by asking if she should bring tea, but Arthur refuses and asks her to leave them alone, and she reluctantly walks away. Mordred notices that Arthur calls the maids by their names instead of treating them like background characters, and Arthur shrugs it off as normal, which actually impresses Mordred, because he always thought Arthur was just another trash noble obsessed with class differences. Arthur takes the chance to build goodwill, mentioning how he supported the orphanage, and Mordred praises him, making Arthur's ego inflate instantly, thinking maybe this is working and maybe he can actually avoid execution. But then Mordred's tone shifts, and he reveals his real thoughts, saying the nobles are just using Arthur and the aristocrats are monopolizing his healing powers, and that the orphans receiving help will just grow up useless and dependent. Arthur immediately shuts that down, telling him to stop with the slander because those kids are trying their best. But Mordred only smiles in a way that is just wrong, saying he will fix everything. That is when Arthur realizes his brother is completely messed up, one of those cold, calculated types who think they are the solution to everything. After that encounter, Arthur spirals again and does not leave his bed for 3 days straight. He has no idea what he is supposed to do anymore. Kay keeps worrying about him, telling him he will get sick, but Arthur brushes it off, saying he will just heal himself anyway. He feels trapped, because if he obeys the nobles, nothing changes, and as long as he has healing powers, they will keep using him and locking him in place, and talking to Kay feels pointless because she cannot change any of that. Kay, however, has had enough, so she barges into his room, drags him out like he is being arrested, and Arthur starts yelling, asking what the hell is going on, while Kay, on the verge of tears, tells him he needs sunlight. At this point, she has fully evolved into a mom figure, whether he likes it or not. Arthur tells her not to decide things for him, but she refuses to back down, even bringing a rain cover like she planned this whole intervention. And the moment she reaches for his notebook, Arthur snaps, saying it is none of her business. Kay finally confronts him, asking why he is so obsessed with that notebook, why he always stares at it with that grim expression, and whether it contains something so terrifying that he cannot share it with anyone. Her tone hardens, and that alone is enough to trigger Arthur again because he has been trying his best. She praised him before, and he even came outside like she wanted, so what more does she expect from him? Then she grabs the notebook and threatens to tear it apart, and Arthur immediately shouts that she is crossing the line, asking if she is seriously this angry. Casey fires back, saying he can lock himself in his room until the rapture if he wants, but what really hurts is watching him try to carry everything alone, and that is what makes her angry. Arthur finally breaks a little, kneeling down and admitting that he does not know if he should share it, because she might not understand, and Casey immediately spirals, saying she knows she is not educated and cannot give perfect advice, but she still wants to support him. He should not face something that scares him all by himself because that kind of loneliness will crush him. She tells him she sees how hard he tries, how he fights with everything he has, even if his problems are much bigger than hers, and even then she admires him and believes supporting him is the right thing to do, because at the end of the day she just does not want him to suffer. That hits Arthur harder than anything else because for the first time someone genuinely cares about him without expecting anything in return. He quietly asks why she would cry for him, and Kay just smiles, relieved that he is finally opening up, saying that Lady Morgan and all the maids want to support him because he is the one who saved them. Arthur smiles faintly, thinking maybe that was in another life, because he does not even remember doing that. Later, Kay prepares tea, and Arthur promises he will try to talk to her properly, because he does not want to make her sad again. Kay, determined as ever, says she will do her best to support him, and even brings out some new sweets from abroad for them to try. The moment they taste them, both of them nearly die, because the flavor is so spicy it feels like an attack, and no amount of healing magic can save them from it. Apparently it is modeled after the saintess's favorite flavor and comes from the Holy Land, but Arthur is convinced this thing came straight from hell, and just like that, something finally clicks for him. He asks if he is planning to go outside starting tomorrow, but Arthur has already made up his mind about something much bigger. If he wants to escape execution, he cannot stay here. He needs to go abroad, and more importantly, he needs to meet the saintess. Kay wants to know the reason for the visit. Maybe it's to propose an alliance when their country is nosediving into bankruptcy. If he gets the Holy City to support him, maybe he can have them intervene. Is that the master plan he has hatched? Poor girl is thinking too highly of him. Our boy's plan is simple: beat the saint and dominate her with his healing magic. Someone tell him to chill, this is not Redo of the Healer. He finally gets to the Holy City, the land where the saint lives, the one who will face defeat. Kay asks him to reconsider. This is a place where all races are present. It's full of diversity. Even elves are here. The saint herself is an elf. Arthur is excited to beat her at her own game. He has researched everything, and it's not that simple. He figured out that if he showed her his powers and proved that they were greater than hers, she would end up taking their side. Kay smiles. That's what she expects from someone with the problem-solving skill of a 10-year-old. It's only expected of someone who tells everyone to eat cake if they don't have bread, but she still decides to support him. Does he even know why they hold so much influence? They have the saint who wields incredible healing magic, the MVP of the country that goes to other countries to heal them. Arthur tells Kay that she is incredible and reliable. Just then, a man with a killer face card arrives. Why are they gathered over here? This man is Tristan, Knight of Britain. He asked for their forgiveness, but their banter was just too adorable. Kay laughs, telling Tristan Arthur is really a cutie patootie. Arthur tells them to forget about it, and he's not cute. Does he understand? Tristan just laughs, promising to protect him till the end of his breath. Let's see if Broke keeps his promise when the revolution comes around. Arthur is certain that if the dinner goes well, they can finally be at ease. Today is about strengthening ties between Britain and the Holy City. And though Britain looks peaceful on the surface, beneath it's on the verge of collapse. They are bankrupt, they have no security, and his brother is a maniac who wants to have him beheaded. The flames of revolution are closing in, and if they forge ties with the Holy City, they can have a powerful ally in times of need. So he needs to bet his life to get them, and he will also definitely defeat the saint. Tristan and Kay realize that he's obsessed. He still vows to defeat her, and Kay wonders if he will even say anything else. He keeps repeating that he will defeat her like a Pokemon, but will he even be able to eat properly at the banquet? Like a white boy, he can't even handle his spices. The thing that will probably be served is spicy fried chicken. And the souvenir from the country was too spicy for Arthur. Arthur tells her it's fine, he'll get used to it. In truth, he had eaten it before, but just forgot after his years in the prison cell. He had dined with the saintess in his previous life, but last time it led to nothing. Back when he was captured and made into a prisoner, and his hair was all over the place, he asked for their mercy, and everyone just enjoyed his torment. He asked for them to call the saintess to have someone heal him, but the people just smiled. A healer asking for another healer is just too pathetic. Arthur really doesn't want his cake clapped this time. He decides to show the saintess what he is capable of, to get her on her good side, but the saintess is acting weird. She has her face hidden behind a gigantic hand fan. Arthur wonders what is happening, and Cake wonders if every healer has a few screws loose. They have served food. He asks the saintess if everything is good, and the saintess says that as fellow healers they should get along, but Arthur butts in that there's no chance. Kakri reminds him to watch his words. Arthur asks the saintess to lure the fan. After all, it's a real meeting, and he should at least see her face. She agrees it's rude of her to hide behind a fan. Arthur wonders what game she is playing, but it won't throw him off his A game, or so he thought, before the saintess reveals another mask covering her face. She tells Arthur she has no obligation to follow his orders, since her healing magic surpasses his. This is basically a magical version of Stronger Than Your Dad. Arthur yells, saying that it's impossible. She needs to take it off, but Elaine tells him that it's nailed in place, since his healing magic is too weak. Kare apologizes for Arthur's rude remarks, and the maid standing to the saintess also apologizes. All of the maids gather around, realizing that it's her tending to royal healers. When she is dispatched, she heals without fear, but other than that she is a weirdo. Kara finally understands how it feels. Meanwhile, Arthur and the saintess are going back and forth, saying that their healing magic is better than the others. Just then, someone barges into the room, apologizing for interrupting the meal, but she freezes. There's not a meal going on, it's just a meat measuring contest. She explains that they're in a rush. A venomous beast has appeared in a neighboring village, and all the villagers are poisoned. She brings a man who's been poisoned, and the saintess heals him without fear. She decides to go help the village and forgives Arthur, closing the doors behind her. She asks, where is the village? There's no time, and she needs to save them no matter what. But just then, Arthur arrives as well, ready to save the saintess in her time of need. Either that or to prove that his healing magic is really stronger. Arthur is glad that he gets to beat the saintess in getting here first, but what awaits him is not a village full of cheerful people, but a hut full of sick men. The poison has spread to most of the village, and they are on the verge of death and destruction. An elder tells Arthur not to go inside. The poison is way too strong. Arthur just tells them to back off. He is here to heal. Just then, the saintess also arrives, ready to heal them. The elder wonders if she is okay. A strange child has arrived and is claiming to heal as well. The saintess is ticked off and looks at Arthur, healing all of the villagers. He smiles, telling the saintess that she is late. He is already treating them better than she did, and he will be the one to save them first. The saintess asks what the hell he is doing. Does he even understand how this poison works? Arthur raises an eyebrow. Excuse me, miss. I have already healed them. Stop being a sore loser, is what he wants to say. But the guy he healed gets infected again. Arthur wonders why the poison is coming back. Kes tries to get into the hut to give them water, but the saintess tells her to hold on and not to enter. The poison is thick in the air. Thanks to Arthur's healing ability, he can come and go as he pleases. But anyone else who enters the room will be infected. This will not save the village alone. She needs to work together with Arthur. First, she starts healing the entire hut at once, and that is when Arthur uses that chance to heal them all. A bright light covers the cabin, and everyone closes their eyes, praying for Arthur to be safe. Arthur smiles, stretching because he is done. The saintess tells him that he has done well, and he just smiles. They did it together. The saintess tells Arthur that his healing may really rival her own, but Arthur reminds her it is not about rivalry, it is about helping those in need. The saintess is surprised, but her eyes are still lifeless. Arthur feels something is wrong, and whirs around, but almost falls. Just then he feels something soft break his fall. KK has arrived, giving our hero the healing he deserves in the form of a lap pillow. Though it is embarrassing, he cannot move anymore because healing drains his stamina, and he is not used to treating so many people in a single day. One of the elders smirks. Not only is the saintess here, but foreign royalty is here as well. He bows before them. Their village is too poor to give them any payment. Arthur just smiles. He does not accept dough anymore in exchange for healing. Tristan also rises, breathless. He cannot believe that he serves such a free-spirited master, but he stops talking in shock when he sees his young master getting a lap pillow. Even he, as a holy knight, has failed to get one. Tristan was running around like a chicken with its head cut off, looking for Arthur. He had disappeared in mid-air, but he is just glad that Arthur is safe. Arthur smiles. For the first time, he is surrounded by people who actually care for him. Close to him, someone arrives next to the saintess, asking if she is exhausted and should rest. But she is not a weak healer who uses a lap pillow as soon as she is done healing. She tells the attendant to get the horses ready. They need to get out of here as soon as possible, for she has never seen a poison this strong. It is infectious just getting near it. It smells even worse than my brother's room, when he has not left the house for 3 days. It must be because of one of the 5 great beasts, the cockatrice. They realize that it must be true. The monster is as strong as a kaiju. It lives in a poisonous swamp, and a single one can wipe out a town. It spreads poison just by existing. It has a chicken's head with a tail like a scorpion, but hearing that it is a chicken fills our boy with false confidence. He vows to slay as many as he can. Tristan wonders if Arthur is looking for glory, and Arthur just smiles. He has fought monsters before, and a chicken is nothing to worry about. Kay, on the other hand, looks like she is on the verge of a mental breakdown. Arthur tells her not to worry. He will not lose to a chicken. He knows that she is worried that he will get hurt, but he would rather die than lose to KFC. And besides, Tristan is also here to guard him. Tristan finally realizes that he can talk. He tells them not to worry, and also apologizes for being so shocked by seeing his master get a lap pillow. The saintess tells them to stop it. She does not need outside help to handle her own affairs. She runs away, and the attendant runs after her. Tristan knows that the elf is as awkward as they come. The attendant explains that the saintess was not like this before. 4 years ago, she awakened her healing magic and came to the church with eyes full of hope and dreams. The Holy Church was supposed to heal everyone. She wanted to be like the Holy Knight, the healer of Britain, who would heal everyone regardless of rank, a hero out of a fairy tale. But ideals and reality soon clash, stripping her of her hope. The saintess became a symbol used to raise the church's authority. Even in this world, healthcare is not free. Big Pharma strikes again, as the church uses the saintess to boost their ranks, and Arthur's tutor uses him to line his own pockets. When she saved a young girl, the fellow sister was happy that the illness became a stepping stone for the church to gain fame. That shocked the saintess, and she did not fit in with the others, since they only wanted fame through her. They even wanted to wait until more people were infected before curing them, because that would create hype, just like how Pfizer became so famous during the coronavirus. She turns to leave. There is no healer as noble as the Holy King, and Elaine realizes that she cannot become one herself, so she chooses to stay in blissful ignorance. Just like how I chose to complete my arts degree knowing I would not get a job after graduating, there was no hope for the world again. Tristan realizes the real reason she is so down. It must be lonely fighting a losing battle all alone. But this time, Arthur is ready to join the fight. He vows to hunt the chicken monster and bring it to the village as glory. They start trailing it, ready to see if there are any clues. All of a sudden, Arthur finds a veil that matches that of the saintess, and sure enough, he also finds the saintess, bruised but not broken. Arthur realizes that this is the monster's doing. It has left the elf, covered in blood and scratches. Though she is annoying as hell, he still feels a sense of responsibility towards her, and looking at her like this makes his heart hurt. Thankfully, she is only knocked out, but just as she regains consciousness, the first thing she does is hit Arthur with her stick. Arthur immediately heals himself, and Tristan explains that she tried to take down the monster herself, but it was too much for her. A saintess tells them to leave, return to the village. She is going to hunt the monster alone, but Arthur refuses to leave her alone. He is the one who will take on the monster. Tristan also agrees. They want to help her and will be with her. They ask her if she has seen the monster, because Arthur has only seen monsters in taxidermy. Most of them were just dolls or decorations. This makes saintess question why he is here. He needs to shut up and walk behind her. Arthur, on the other hand, is using his brain to the maximum output, so talking will lure the monster out. Tristan also asks the saintess if she is worried. It's rare to see her care about someone. Arthur tells Tristan that for some reason she can't be left alone. The saintess wonders why, and Tristan laughs, teasing him that maybe it's young love. Instead of refusing, she downright tells Arthur that's gross. The kind of response I get when I confess to a girl after my bro told me the worst she can say is no. Arthur wonders why he can't help but be with people who tick him off. Elaine is capable of using healing magic herself. He excitedly tells the saintess that he read a picture book about the Holy Night a long time ago. The mention of Holy Night is enough to trigger her, and she slaps Arthur. Even though he doesn't feel any pain, it's still stinging. Arthur tells her that he is not sure if he should take every word on face value, but she is still trying. She hasn't given up on becoming like the Holy King. She is still trusting people, and still hasn't given up on saving them. He knows that she wants to be like him. The saintess just smiles, telling Arthur to stop with this stock note jutsu bullfish. Stop beating her. She doesn't need charity. Arthur tries to clear the air. There's no pity, and Tristan knows that his master is fumbling in front of the baddie. He decides to walk in front so that he doesn't have to see this embarrassing exchange. He also tells the saintess that she really is a lone bull. The saintess agrees, and tells them to head back, stop being so annoying, and leave. Tristan refuses to let a foreign royalty die. She still insists that they should mind their own business and forget about diplomacy. But just then, the final boss of KFC arrives, ready to tear them to shreds. They realize this is the cockatrice, a rooster with the tail of a dragon, and the breath of a Discord mod. It's bigger than he thought, and that's what she said last night. They wonder what the plan is. They can't fight this thing in a tight space. Tristan decides to open the ground for him, but the saintess tells him to stop butting in. Tristan grabs Arthur and runs away, because this is not the time to fight. This is the time to make a strategy. Arthur is surprised that he is handled like luggage. He looks at the cockatrice leap from root to root, going past them and heading towards the water, turning it into a poisonous sludge. This has become the worst possibility. Tristan fires an arrow at the cockatrice, but it rots mid-air, completely ineffective. Though it's a monster that is timid, it's impossible to fight it in its home turf. Arthur doesn't believe in the word impossible. He runs towards the rooster, causing it confusion, for no human has ever walked into its domain. Poisonous sludge. The poison corrodes his body, and he purifies it over and over again, moving towards the rooster at a terrifying speed. The rooster looks at Arthur in confusion. No one has ever approached it before, and Arthur grabs its tail and starts healing it. He keeps purifying it, weakening it over and over again. But as long as the rooster is standing in sludge, it will keep getting back up. A matter of perseverance. Will Arthur tire himself out first, or will the rooster? The saintess is troubled by Arthur's words. Has she really not given up on being like the Holy Knight? She decides to push her thoughts down and focus on the fight. A bright glow envelops the rooster as it screams in pain. He starts purifying the water surrounding the rooster to delay its healing. They finally take down the monster because of working together. Just then, Arthur thinks that they are buddy-buddy, but Elaine points her staff at his face, ready to turn his face into a grapefruit. Arthur remembers how his head had already departed from his body. Will he die in a more creative way this time around? Tristan wonders what the hell she is doing, but the saintess yells, "What's his problem? Why is he always butting in? He who always relies on servants, even for scratching his nose, is telling her how to live her life." Tristan tells Arthur not to provoke her anymore. She's turned into a crazy witch, but Arthur tells her that he understands. Just because she can heal doesn't mean that she doesn't get hurt. She gets hurt where it doesn't show, in the heart, just like him. If she keeps it up, she'll end up all alone, and that's too sad for a healer. The saintess yells that he weirdly has any real-life experience, and he's still blabbering on about it. Just then, the rooster arrives, making a desperate last stand. Before the saintess can do anything, Arthur pushes her out of the way as Tristan delivers the final blow. Tristan knows that his master is succeeding in the talk, no jutsu. He won't let the rooster cock-block his master. Arthur tells her that he understands she's alone, but pain is scary. They can heal wounds right away, but it still hurts when they're alone. She finally cracks, turning into a blubbering mess, and Tristan smiles at his master. They finally slew the monster and return to the village, only to be scolded by Kay, who was fussing over Arthur like his mommy. The saintess smiles, a genuine smile, for a long time in her life. He managed to resolve the saintess problem, and to get diplomatic relations flowing between them by defeating one of the 5 great beasts, a cockatrice. He even got 20 points for killing an overgrown chicken. Now many people will oppose the execution, including the saintess, and that's how his death sentence has been reduced to life imprisonment. Though is it really better than a death sentence? The saintess even asks to be pen pals, though her face is as red as a beetroot. They even have some cockatrice skewers made by the saintess. The saintess wants to establish relations and decides to be pen pals. She even promises to help him with his own problems. But right now, the only problem our boy is facing is the skewers being way too spicy for his white-boiled chasebirds. The saintess even asks him to drop the formal dot and be buddies. He just smiles and agrees. As the carriage rides off into the sunset, the saintess finally feels relieved to find a kindred spirit. He has business in this area, and asks Tristan to ride off, thanking him for his help in the mission. and if anything comes up he will definitely let him know. Tristan also teases him that if anything happens with the saintess he should let Tristan know. Arthur just smiles. They got another ally, and according to the good deed notebook, he won't be executed, just imprisoned for life. Hopefully without torture. That is still coming for him, but he can change it. All of a sudden a crowd of admirers surrounds him. They are calling him the hero who slew the cockatrice, Lord Arthur. Even a reporter is here, who is jotting down the news. Arthur hides behind Kay as the reporter asks for the full scoop. The story is getting interesting. The main story includes the guy who tried to unalive Arthur with a crossbow. He is going to be publicly executed for attacking the Lord of the Domain. Arthur remembers when that happened. Looks like he will be executed next week. And for someone who has gone through execution, he doesn't want the criminal to face that. He smiles. Even though he is a criminal, he gets where he is coming from. And he also knows how he can farm good deeds. He tells the reporter that he, Arthur, is pardoning the attacker and calling off the execution. Everyone freezes, and Arthur continues. Then he gets how people can be enraged by nobles only looking out for themselves. He was just desperate to survive and acted out on impulse to kill a royal. That's what happens when royals oppress people. Even if they don't turn to crime, people with frustration vent it out on the first chance they get. But he wants to change it all and bring out something better in society. The reporter smiles. Looks like Arthur is the bigger man, and he wants to put the scoop on the front page. Arthur agrees and asks if the execution will be cancelled. The reporter smiles as if he is constipated. It will be difficult. Even though Arthur says that he will forgive the criminal, he can't overturn the execution by himself. Lubin, the criminal, will finally get some peace one way or another. Arthur smiles, realizing that he has his next side quest. Casey is also blubbering, deciding to help him no matter what. Arthur smiles. Looks like escaping execution is around the corner. They are going to stop the execution no matter what. Kay excitedly runs away with his good deed book, only to collapse with her face as red as a tomato. Arthur realizes that she is going down with a fever, and though he has healed her up, she still needs to rest. Madness Mariani tells Arthur that she must be worn out from the expedition. Looks like she won't be able to help him out. Arthur decides who she should pick. Morgan is still kind of scary, and the saintess is too cute, but the letters take forever, and Tristan is just weird. He decides to rely on Mariani this time, since she is kind, smart, and reliable. Mariani is touched that her master is choosing her like a Pokemon. Just then, a guy even more narcissistic than the past Arthur arrives. This is the first prince, Rod. Arthur smiles, calling him Rod. Nissan, which is calling him Brick Bro. Rod starts crashing out that he should call him Honored Brick Bro. Just because Arthur can heal doesn't mean that he is the next king. Arthur calls him Anisama, promptly, and the maid supporting Rod looks at him with dead eyes, reminding him that Arthur has more supporters, but he shouldn't worry about that. Rod angrily yells at her, calling her maid number 15, not even bothering to call her name. Later they have tea, and Arthur is just glad to look at his big brother. His big brother, on the other hand, is continuously trying to put him down for losing his tutor and being unpopular among the nobles. He can't even control his people, since his tutor was lining his pocket and was thrown in jail. Arthur just smiles. He knows that he is nowhere near king material, since he was executed in his last life. But at this rate, his brother is also going to be executed. He looks glum. His brother, on the other hand, is also going to be executed in his last life. But at this rate, his brother is also going to be executed. He looks glum. Rod wonders, why is he moping around? Arthur wonders if he can really do something for his brother. Just then, maid number 15 brings him some sweets, and he realizes that the first thing he can do is change his brother by asking him to call his staff by name. He tells Rod that they are people too. After all, if he doesn't tend to his blade, the blade will cut him in return. Rod looks at his maid in fear, and Arthur smiles, looking like he's getting it. Rod is still hell-bent on bullying Arthur because he can't manage his own people. Just because he can heal doesn't mean he should get cocky. He tells Arthur to wait until he's compared to the saintess, then he'll cry. He looks like little bro just missed out on Arthur's whole character arc. When he reveals that they are pen pals now, he looks at his brother crying up a river. He then asks his bro how they can stop an execution, since he is so non-legible. Looking at Arthur genuinely admiring him is enough to have Rod act almost like a decent person. He explains that he wants to save the criminal who tried to execute him. Since Rod understands politics better than anyone, he must know how to save them. Rod just smiles, wondering if brothers should help each other. But that's not the type of bullfish situation that goes in the palace. They're enemies competing for the throne, and there's no need to listen to commoners as well. If they revolt, they can just crush them or throw them in prison. Thanking his brother for the best advice he got, Rod is left there, standing alone, wondering why his brother is a weirdo. Maid number 15 is staring right into his soul, and Rod remembers Arthur cautioning him to treat his staff well. Maid number 15 tells Arthur that the love letter he sent to Saint came back unopened. This man is not only hated, but his riz is so negative, his bloodline will probably end with him. Meanwhile, Arthur arrives at the village. Everyone is talking about Lubin, but Arthur has disguised himself and is trying to find out Lubin's siblings. He's sure that Lubin tried to kill him because of how hated he was, and most won't try to defy a public execution, but he needs to find a way to stop it. He arrives at a hut explaining that Prince Arthur has pardoned Lubin. If they speak up now, they can stop the execution. After all, everything is going to plan. He needs to blend in with the crowd and get close to Lubin, and the moment the blade falls, he will heal Lubin. Hopefully that will happen, but his plan can fail if Lubin is hanged instead. Arthur rushes towards the man, but instead of the gluten, he is hanged, foiling his plan. Despair washes over his face because he didn't make it in time. He apologizes over and over again because the man died because of him. Morgan walks through the halls with a solemn expression. They say Kay is staying with Arthur, but Arthur has locked himself in his room the whole time. The public at his execution was hard on him. They say that a protester forced their way in, and it's not unusual for people to protest like that. Morgan is assuming that Arthur is down in the dump, hurting because someone tried to protest the execution. Kaib is trying to console him with a lap mallow, but even a massive marshmallow can't heal the trauma within him. He covers his face and is crying, whispering that he is relieved that they say there was a protest against the execution that day. It's good that he wasn't there, but Arthur claps back that it's his fault. She knows this wasn't some harmless prank by a child. Kay wonders why he didn't do anything. Arthur gets up and with tears filling his eyes, he reveals that he was the kid who broke through the line at the execution. He remembers telling the criminals' brothers that if they protest the execution, they can stop the authorities from killing him. He remembers the cute little kid having his hopes up. He remembers the confidence he felt that day, the same kind of confidence I had that my dad would come back after going out to get milk 15 years ago. The brothers started to protest that since the prince had forgiven their brother, they should call off the execution. They drew the crowd's attention away, but when it was time, Arthur tried to break through the lines, walking to heal the criminal with his powers. But that was the plan, but he couldn't make it in time. Everything was going so well until now, and he really thought that he couldn't fail. Someone even noticed him being a mage and tried to get him. The other siblings were dragged away, and the last thing they saw was their brother being hanged for acting out in frustration. All Arthur could do that day was run away. Kay tells Arthur that what he's been doing right now is for the people, and she won't tell anyone. Morgan is also troubled. Arthur opens the door and finds Morgan on the other side. He asks what's up. Morgan tells Arthur to rely on her if he ever needs help. All he needs to do is ask. Arthur knows that Kay has been trying so hard to save him. He tries to act cheerful, asking if she really thought that he was crying, and he was also sure that she hated him. Morgan tells Arthur that she doesn't hate him anymore, and he just smiles as if he's gotten the biggest achievement of his life, but he's still scared of her. Morgan angrily says that's because he's an idiot. He turns into a crybaby, hiding behind Kay and asking her to save him. He also smiles kindly, asking Morgan if she really thought that he was crying. Morgan freezes as he runs away. Kay is relieved that Arthur is getting back on his feet, but Morgan knows better. She knows that Kay does a lot for Arthur, but when they were little, whenever she scolded Arthur, he would say the same thing and run to the bushes to cry alone. It feels as if nothing has changed, and she can't do anything for Arthur. She walks away, wallowing in despair. Meanwhile, true enough, Arthur is crying his eyes out behind a bush. He dragged the criminal siblings into it, got their hopes up, only to blow it up with his half-baked plan. He apologizes to the air over and over again. Not even the textbook can save him now. He feels hopeless for blowing his second chance, even though he was given a walkthrough by God. He wanted to save the criminal to change his ending, and that's why he screwed up so badly. He decides to give up on this do-over, take the notebook, and end it all. After all, it's a lovely night to end his life. He goes to bed as usual, and Kay smiles, thanking him. Kay wants to leave, but Arthur asks Kay to let him see her face one more time. She promises to be by her side forever, and Arthur just smiles weakly. She's being dramatic. Later, he walks out of the castle. People think that he's immortal, but that's wrong. First, he can be starved to death. Second, he can be flattened into a pancake if he's crushed. Or he could be instantly beheaded. But there's another thing some people know about. He can drown. He walks to the pond and is glad it hasn't frozen over. He's ready to give up on the world. As he walks deeper into the lake, he feels a chill run through his body. His healing magic is kicking in. Maybe it's mistaking cold for pain. He imagines Kay scolding him for walking in. If Kay were here, she would hug him even if she got soaked. If Morgan were here, she would scold him relentlessly. If Mariani were here, she would also be furious. If he wrote to the saintess, she would be shocked. And Tristan would probably tease him. The kids at the orphanage have learned so many wonderful things, but it's all for nothing. He wonders if he takes the notebook down with him, he might get another chance. But does he really want to do it all over again, when he can't change anything? As he sinks to the bottom, he wonders what he should have done differently. Suddenly he splutters, coughing up blood and water. He looks around, wondering who saved him, and his unlikely savior is Mordred. Mordred smiles, telling him that he is late. The genius idea Arthur had was to give up on this world, unalive himself while holding the notebook, hoping for a redo. But even if he restarts, it's not like anything will change. All he wants to do is live a life of peace, eating, laughing with loved ones, and enjoying Kay's lap pillow. He definitely jumped into the pond, but something happened, and that's why time has a rebound. Does it mean that he failed in unaliving himself? A voice calls him out saying that it's late. What is he muttering about? It is Mordred. Cool smiles calmly. Mordred tells him that he had quite a scare. He went to a supporters meeting and came back to find his big bro sleeping out in the open. Arthur curses the heavens for running into this narcissistic waste of space right now, the guy who got him killed in the previous timeline. Mordred starts sneezing and tells his brother he'll end up catching a cold if he walks like that. But Mordred laughs, remembering that his brother doesn't get sick. He also wonders if they are just playing around. It looks like his brother can feel the cold at least. Arthur is shaken, and Mordred notices the diary lying beside him. He picks it up and Arthur crashes out, yelling at him not to look at it. He fears that if the ultimate cheat code falls into Mordred's hands, he'll be unstoppable. Thankfully, no one else can read the diary except for Arthur. Looks like dying is the only way to unlock this cheat sheet. Mordred further explains that he knows why Arthur failed in saving the criminal. He knows why that plan failed, and does he want to know? Arthur wonders why he would reveal that when he hates him. Mordred just smiles. Brothers are meant to help each other. Is that not true? Arthur grabs him by the collar, yelling his name. He looks bruised, broken, and still accidentally heals his brother. Mordred just smiles, telling Arthur the reason he failed is that he is too kind. That was not the answer he was expecting. He gets up and thanks Arthur for healing him. Arthur yells that he isn't a fool, and yet Mordred is treating him like one. Even though he can't change anything, he's trying. Mordred tells Arthur that he can't save everyone. It's impossible. The entire crowd has individual people, and he wonders if Mordred has realized it yet. But giving up is important. He returns the diary to Arthur, and Arthur tells his brother to shut up and believe in him when he says that he'll change everything. He knows that they are in pain. They are hurt, confused, and broken, and that's why he's going to save everyone or die trying. Mordred just smiles, telling Arthur that he's a kid, and he won't let him have his way. Arthur yells that he'll study, he'll learn things, and he will show them what he can do in this world. Later, he walks up to Morgan, asking her to teach him practical politics that can help him develop skills to deal with nobles and commoners. Morgan is surprised by the sudden request. This is a request only she can carry out. Later, the criminal siblings are working hard in the fields when an official arrives telling them that since their guardian has broken a rule and passed away, starting next month, they will be given an unemployment check. Arthur is behind this reform, and he doesn't even want the public to know that he's responsible. He doesn't care about credit anymore. He generally wants to change the world. It's the best he can do. Later, he walks up to the orphanage, and all the kids look at him, calling him Big Bro Arthur. They're glad that they can also join his lessons. Morgan has hired a tutor for him, and it would be a waste for Arthur to keep him all to himself. His days of gatekeeping are over, and he's having the orphanage kids join him in learning. They ask what challenges the kingdom is facing right now. Everyone is at a loss for answers, but Arthur comes up with the idea that the population is too big. Their kingdom relies on wheat, and if something happens to their food supply, everyone will rise up to protect their lives. One of the kids calls Arthur a traitor for actually studying, but in reality he's just talking about the failures he saw unfold before he reincarnated. He just tells the kids that he was studying beforehand, making them go crazy. They start learning, and one of them accidentally reads something from Arthur's good notebook. He snatched away the notebook and wasn't expecting someone to actually read it. It was supposed to be invisible, and the writing isn't growing. It's as if someone has written it on it. Today is Britain's once-a-year founding festival, and Kay smiles at both of the lovely ladies, calling them an absolute snack. Morgan smiles. She looks like a superstar or a supermodel, and the saintess is in a league of her own. Though her ribbon has come undone, she thanks them for. It would have been hard to wear this all the way from home. Kay tells Saintess that she is certain Arthur will compliment how beautiful she is, and that turns her into a blubbering mess. She is a true Tessunder, asking the maid what she is saying when Morgan just smiles and decides to go on ahead. The Saintess notices how pretty she is, and wonders who she is. Kay decides to reveal it later, but for now she should enjoy the festival. Poor girl is falling for Arthur while he already has a lap pillow mommy and a baddie fiancé. The founding festival is hosted by the royal family, and it's only natural that Arthur will be here as well. There will also be a ball where everyone will dance, and the Saintess is secretly hoping Arthur chooses her to dance. The doors burst open, and the royal family of Britain is finally showing their faces. First up is Rod, the stinky little cod. Ever since Arthur started his pro-commoner policies, Rod has been gaining approval from the nobles, strengthening his ties with them more than ever. Next up is the sleazeball Mordred, the third prince, who is always planning to support the commoners, and is really famous among them. He even shows his face at rallies for supporters. And last up is our boy Arthur, who has Morgan wrapped around his arms. Their sight is enough to send the Saintess into a stroke she can't heal from. Kay smiles, unaware of the emotional damage that is being dealt. When she hears that Morgan is the Lord's fiancé, it sends her over the edge. The three princes all have different agendas, and everyone hopes things won't go wild. Rod, on the other hand, smiles. He is more delusional than me when I thought I would get a job after my arts degree, as he is sure Lady Elaine is looking at him. Mordred wonders if he is sure. It looks like he is mistaking her glaring for staring. The only one she is looking at is Arthur. Arthur looks at his diary once again, telling his brothers if they are responsible for scribbling in his diary. Mordred smiles. He filled his empty diary with a plan for Arthur. So what? Arthur yells that he is going to change. Hasn't he forgotten? Rod tells them to stop. They are yapping. The brothers wonder if Rod even has a thing for girls, or if his right hand is his girlfriend. He snaps back that he doesn't care about girls. The only one he cares about is the saintess. They know that Lord Rod is fuming. Regardless, Morgan is glad that Arthur is doing better, and Arthur is also glad his studies are progressing smoothly. The saintess is taken aback by how chummy they are. She had no idea that they were so tight, and she also had no idea that Prince Arthur was sick. Why was she out of the loop? As her head is spinning with doubts, Arthur asks if she is okay or if she is hungry. He offers her the best dishes they have, since all of the brothers will be putting on a performance to entertain everyone later. Elaine tells her that she is not hungry, but Morgan smiles, rage-baiting her to not hold back and hurry up. Rod, on the other hand, is looking at Kay in annoyance. What is she doing over his boot? Why are they acting without permission? But just then, he looks at Elaine, and in a desperate attempt to continue his bloodline and deliver his rod, he asks Elaine to try some of his dishes. Elaine looks at him with so much disgust. It's as if he has offered her raw trash and toilet water to eat and drink. She then looks at Arthur and asks him to come with her for a second. He wonders why she is passing on dessert. Poor guy doesn't know that he is the dessert. Rod, on the other hand, asks Lady Elaine what she is doing. Kai smiles, saying that the saintess is a sweetie, and they are not worried about her. Morgan also notices that they are using golden wheat, a magically enhanced supercrop that is known to lure monsters. It's a luxury commoners can't afford or think about, and here Rod is serving it at a party. Rod reasons that they have a whole squad around their city. If a monster crosses the sea, they'll never make it past the sea gates. And it's not like they've seen a goblin walking around or anything. Morgan puts a piece of golden wheat on a tray and hands it to Kay, telling them that wheat might become a thing of the past in the kingdom. Just then, maid number 15 rushes towards Lord Rod, saying that the golden wheat field in his territory is being demolished by one of the 5 great beasts. Arthur, who's walking outside, wonders why it's gotten so noisy. He also notices the saintess acting weird. They should head back. If they've gone too long, Morgan will be worried. The saintess musters up her courage, asking her boy for a dance. Will our boy continue his bloodline by taking the saintess upon the offer, or will he just die alone? We'll have to wait and see.